Fractions to decimals with number chips. This is a New Year's version. So it starts with a little review. We want to change fractions to equivalent fractions with 100 in the denominator. That's the first step. So they're just asking students on slide 2 what we multiply times each of these numbers in order to get 100. So it's pretty simple. It gives them a little practice with the number chips. In order to move these numbers, all they need to do is click and hold on the edge, and then they can move them into place in the correct circle. So 25 times 4, 20 times 5, 10 times 10, and 5 times 20. So on every slide, students will have all of the numbers they need to complete that slide. We move on to the next slide. Now students are going to be multiplying numerator and denominator by the same number in order to get an equivalent fraction with 100 in the denominator. So this first one, we know we have to multiply 50 times 2. So that means we also have to multiply 9 times 2. So they move the 2's into place, and then they multiply across. They're going to get 18 hundredths. 5 25ths, they're just going to multiply times 4. 25 times 4 is 100, so we also have to multiply 5 times 4, and that gives us 20 hundredths. So again, they've got all of the numbers they need on every slide. So if they get to the end and something doesn't work, they know they made an error and they need to go back and check again. Slide 4 is a review of place values, so they need to put all of these numbers in the correct place. In place value, place your 4 in the ones place, 1 in the tenths place, 8 in the hundreds place, and so on. Now the next slide will explain to them when they have a decimal with, or a fraction with 100 in the denominator, they're going to look at their numerator. The number on the far right will go in the hundreds place if they have a fraction that has a denominator of 100. So that 9, the arrow is going to show them where to place the 9. That 9 has to go in the hundreds place. So to show it as a decimal, they just place the other numbers in order. This number has to be a 0, and they get 49 hundredths as a decimal. The next one, the 3, the number on the far right in the numerator, is going to go into the hundreds place. And then if they have a number where this fraction that's greater than 1, same thing, that number on the far right will go in the hundreds place. And if they place the other numbers in order, they get 1 and 80 hundredths. So the next slide, they're going to be doing the same thing, just changing the fraction to a decimal. Same thing on slide 7. This time we have 5 100, so we want to make sure the students are placing the 5 in the correct place. Students would tend to put it in the tenths place instead of the hundreds place. Slide 8 has fractions that are greater than 1. Same rule applies. The number on the far right will go in the hundreds place. So they can see that the decimal answer is going to be greater than 1. Now when they get to slide 9, now they're going to be converting the fractions to an equivalent fraction with 100 in the denominator, and then changing it to a decimal. So from fraction to a equivalent fraction with 100 in the denominator, and then changing it to a decimal. Same thing on the next slide, next 2 slides. Now they're going to get an example where the fraction cannot convert directly into an equivalent fraction with 100 in the denominator. So on these fractions, they have to simplify first. So for 6/40, if they divide the numerator and denominator by 2, they get 3/20. Now they can convert it to a fraction with 100 in the denominator and then change it to a decimal. So same thing on this one. 3/15. If they simplify it, they will get 1/5. And go ahead and change it to a fraction with 100 in the denominator and then to a decimal. Now when you get to 13, there are some fractions that cannot convert to an equivalent fraction with 100 in the denominator. Here, if they simplify, they're going to get 1/8. And the only thing they can do on this one is use long division. So 1 divided by 8. And the students have to put all of the numbers in the correct place. So 8 goes into 10 one time. 8 times 1 is 8. These numbers have to be zeros. Students need to know that. Here they're going to subtract, bring down the 0. 8 goes into 20 2 times. 2 times 8 is 16. Subtract and bring down the last 0. At this point, 8 will go evenly into 45 times, and now they have their quotient 125 thousandths. They're going to do the same thing on the next slide, simplify and then divide. And then on the final slide, they have an example where they have a repeating decimal as an answer. So they're going to use this little bar, move it into place. When they do all of the division, they're going to get repeating sixes. And then they just move this bar over the 6 to show it's repeating. And again, all the numbers they need will be here. So the final slide is just a vocabulary you might want to go over with the students, the 3 different types of decimals that they're going to see. So this is a New Year's version of fractions to decimals with number chips.